the lands that were occupied. Even in the lands that were occupied, they were resisting this. And even just recently, subhanAllah, this modernist idea, one of these people from this foundation, government-founded foundation, wrote during the battle or the massacre in Gaza, he was attacking Hamas while the Muslims were being massacred there. A person who has a Muslim name. If I remembered his name, I'll tell you as well. But the point is, this is what they want. To pacify the Muslims in their country so that they are open to accepting foreign occupation, to foreign ideology, and that there is no resistance. We just wholeheartedly, with open heart, take on all their ideas. And number 3 was to call to nationalism, that the watan, the national identity is stronger and greater than the Islamic identity, and in that way, consequently, to get rid of the notion of ummah as one ummah, Muslim ummah, and to focus on being Egyptians or Syrians or Pakistanis or Bangladeshis, whatever. And even now, what do we have to be becoming? British. The idea of nationalism over the ummah, the identity of Muslims as a ummah, as one community. So to eradicate that idea and to make Muslims accept that your nation is more important than your. And when they say nation, that nation with a border is more important than that ummah, the Muslim ummah, to get rid of that idea. And even just recently, Hazel Blair, the community minister, now they want to say any Muslim who believe in the idea, the notion of the ummah, is going to be classed as an extremist.
Yeah, she said that as a terrorist.
Extremist. Naam, jazakallah khair. So they're moving. Contest to, yes, barakallah fiqh. So, alhamdulillah. So you'll be aware of that. Number 4 is they call to modernize Islam. And they call to modernize Islam to suit our times. And I'll give you examples of that, inshallah, in a moment. And number 5, always, is the call to liberate women. And again, I'll give some examples of this. So these last 2, or at least last 3, if you like, this is what some of these modernists of today, I mean, this is a common thing that they have, the modernists of the past, and this is what they share, and this is what the modernists of today, the people want for us as Muslims, to cut the tie of ummah, for us to pacify us so that we don't speak against aggression against Muslims, or even in here, to pacify us Muslims so we don't engage, we're not active, and also, to tie our identity with our passport rather than with our iman, and finally, to change our religion. What they say, modernize, to liberalize, to progress. I'll give you a few examples of these people. I'll mention names because it's public knowledge. Tariq Ramadan. Tariq Ramadan is one of the biggest callers of modernism today. Yes. In a circular that was going around, this was what is said about him. Tariq Ramadan, Oxford University, Professor Tariq Ramadan has been in the forefront in calling for the need for Islam to be reformed from within. He has called for fresh thinking on a number of traditional Islamic views, such as the application of hudud. They think they're clever. They won't say, the hudud is no good or barbaric. They will say the hudud are no longer applicable in our time. This is exactly what he says. We need a moratorium on the hudud. And he's made this claim. So he made this claim for reform within. So the number of traditional Islamic views, such as the application of hudud, the punishment for capital punishment like crimes like adultery and so on. He believes the impetus will also come from European Muslims who then influence the Muslim majority countries. So change us, Muslims in the West, so that we can change the Muslims in the other parts of the world. And he says further, Professor Ramadan feels that an excessively literal interpretation of the Quran since the 13th century has led Islam into intellectual fossilization and political tension. Remaining faithful to the text must be distinguished from being a prisoner of both a literal reading and history. If we begin applying the text to a new context, we will begin to see the progress in Islamic thought. I mean, you need to think about this in terms of what they're really saying. They're saying, forget all of this thing. Let's look at the Quran and Sunnah in a modern light. How do you do that? As a question. Christians did that. And what it means is that you just throw it behind your back and you read into it what you like. And he says on the question of women, is that traditional Islam views the woman merely as a mother, wife, daughter or sister, She has obligations and rights in this capacity, but we must come to a point at which we treat the woman as an independent individual with a right to self-determination, as someone who can run her own life without coercion. Naturally, Islamic feminism must also include the right to education, to work, the freedom to select one's own husband, and the freedom to choose whether or not to wear the headscarf. But the emancipation of Muslim women can only come from within. It cannot be dictated by someone else. These are some of his ideas, and he is one of the leading proponents of modernism amongst the Muslims today. And Muslims sit and listen and clap and don't understand what he's telling them. I'm going to stop here, inshallah, and after adhan I will just continue for about 10 minutes, inshallah. Or in fact, if you'll allow me just to continue, and maybe we can delay the adhan today until 25 past, if that's okay. And then we'll do salat at the state time, inshallah. So these are some of Tariq Ramadan's ideas. I will mention another name, and I know I'm going to be controversial on this, but it's public knowledge. Usama Hasan. Usama Hasan is now a caller of modern idea. Of course, Sheikh Hasan, we know, Sheikh Suhaib Hasan, we respect him, we love him, and we honor him. But Usama Hasan today is one of the callers of modernism and one of the people who are giving legitimacy to this call. And we need to challenge this, because he's coming out to the public and we cannot no longer keep quiet about this. And some of his views, I'll tell you some of his views here. He says, for example, on regard to music, he says that on music, my view is that of Sheikh Abdul al-Juday, whose book on the subject is the best around. It is a close view of Sheikh al-Qardawi, and classically the better view of Ibn Khaldun and others. And he says, the statement music is haram is a statement that is neither accurate nor authentic, nor helpful in a music-infested society, especially since the Prophet commanded the use of music at certain occasions. What a liar. Wallahi, he's a big liar. Rasulullah ﷺ never commanded music. Rasulullah ﷺ never commanded music. Rasulullah would never command that which is munkar. And he says that feel free to disagree on this matter, but it is not a matter of wala and bara. We said yes, it is a matter of wala and bara, because that is not correct. On the headscarf, the khimar, and he puts in bracket khimar, not hijab as much used term, and niqab, etc. Whether you like it or not, millions of devout Muslims, women who are pious, do their salah, siyam, charity, and much else, follow what I call a rational view based on holistic maqasid that the Quran tells them to dress modestly. I mean, we can go into analysis of this and his batil that he's coming with. Really, this is just a useless, false argument, and only the ignorant will be fooled by this argument. So he says, e.g. the ayah mentioning the headscarf tells them to cover their bosoms, followed by millions of devout, intelligent Muslims in Pakistan